Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Follow this show on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. And if you do listen to it on any of those programs, please leave a review if you so wish, and give it a 5-star review as well. That would really help the program going forward. This episode in particular, after a very long time in between the last one, Triple Threat Theater Volume 3, myself, Josh Cross, and Donnie all deep dive into the Juice Box for 3 incredibly deep topics, and we go for quite a long time. I think this is our longest episode. It's arguably our best episode because with time, you get better with more experience, and just we love talking about wrestling. So this is our bread and butter. It's our wheelhouse. This is where we thrive. So Triple Threat Theater 3 today. 3 topics. We've got The Rock and Roman Reigns conundrum. We'll get into that, of course. CM Punk and his future with WWE, including what he wants to maybe do in 2024. And then the last topic, I asked both Donnie and Josh to give me 5 WWE Hall of Famers that they did not think should be in the Hall of Fame, whether they chose the same or different wrestlers to be, they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame that are, and I gave rebuttals on why I think they should be, or maybe I agreed. There's some that I definitely saw the reasoning why they shouldn't be in, so fun topic as well. So Triple Threat Theater, Josh, Donnie, and Juice. Love these episodes. It's our 3rd one. Can't wait to do another one in the future, but without further ado, it's Josh, it's Donnie, it's Juice, it's the Juice Box, and it's Triple Threat Theater 3, right here on the Juice Box. And here we are once again. It has been a very, very long time since I've had these 2 gentlemen in the Juice Box with yours truly, but we are here for Triple Threat Theater Volume 3. And, man, I love this debate forum. We did similar stuff with Chair Shot and the Fired Up segment. Chair Shot Reality in general had a bunch of just banter with a couple of guys bouncing back and forth off of each other. And the Triple Threat Theater first 2 episodes, I thought, my opinion, very successful. I really thought that both Donnie and Josh Cross here bring a lot to the table. Maybe not the head of the table. We'll get to that in a moment. But a lot of great opinions and a lot of good discussion that I think goes a long way. These are wrestling fans talking about wrestling to a wrestling fan. So it's just it marinates and it gets good banter across the board. So before we get into the 3 topics that I will discuss with these 2 gentlemen, I will introduce these gentlemen once again. We've had them on before, and they're here again. Donnie Fight and Josh Cross. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just trying to keep warm from the snowstorms we've had this past week. So I'm here. I'm ready to talk wrestling just like old times.
Oh, yeah. Donnie, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. It's good to be back. We could say the stars have finally aligned for TTT3 because we've been away for a while. But, we're here now. I'm glad we got this time to get it going. So let's get into it, man. I'm ready.
That's right. And speaking of part-timers and this show being a part-time gig and us never getting it off the ground and the stars aligning, let's start this first topic off with a bang. We have the road to WrestleMania beginning very soon with the Royal Rumble. I'm not sure when this particular episode is going to air, but it's going to air before WrestleMania, so I can at least say that WrestleMania is still ahead of us. And I think before Elimination Chamber as well. So we can kind of have that as well. But Royal Rumble, whether it's CM Punk winning it or Cody Rhodes winning it, whoever wins it, I'm not sure it even affects this next topic. It's The Rock and Roman Reigns conundrum. Roman Reigns has been champion for over 3 years. If he holds the title until September of this year, he will surpass Hulk Hogan's modern-day 1,474-day reign as world champion, whether people care about that or not, because it's not Bruno's record, but it's the modern-day record that people discuss. And if that happens, we're in a very, very new era. I think we are already in the new Triple H regime, the Triple H era as it is. But if Roman goes through WrestleMania 40 and retains again, man, who's going to be the guy to beat him? So finally, pun intended, we get The Rock on day one this year, and kind of just a nothing promo. He had an interaction with Jinder Mahal, and out of that, at the end of it, he says, maybe I'll sit at the head of the table. And boy, did the wrestling world, get set ablaze there. We've been wanting The Rock for a couple years now, especially with this Bloodline storyline, literally tailor-made for The Rock, because in real life, he is the head of the table. He's the guy that's really set the tone for this family's success after his father and the people before him. The Rock took it to such a level that he's arguably the biggest movie star in the world. He's one of the biggest stars to ever come out of WWE and pro wrestling. So, Donnie, Josh, I present to you the Rock Roman conundrum. When this match takes place, assuming The Rock versus Roman Reigns takes place, I'm going to give you a couple of options, and I'll pass it to one of you first, and then we'll get it kind of cooking. But keep in mind these factors. If the match between The Rock and Roman Reigns happens, should the world title be on the line? Should the head of the table be the stakes and no world title is on the line? If that's the case, is Roman champion? Does he lose it before he has the match with The Rock? Does the match happen in Perth at Elimination Chamber? Or does it happen in Philadelphia at WrestleMania 40? Does Cody's story, Dusty never winning the WWE title, Cody going to AEW, coming back, losing to Roman last year in devastating fashion, and potentially coming back and winning the title and finishing the story, does that matter in sense of, is Cody's story more important to the fans than The Rock versus Roman Reigns is? Does The Rock's return and appearance and potential match with Roman Reigns supersede a built-in storyline for Cody Rhodes, the biggest babyface that WWE has seen in years? So I ask you guys, what's more important to you? To WWE, the overall audience? When The Rock takes on Roman Reigns, should it take place in Perth, Philly? What should be on the line? And does Cody Rhodes even have a stake in the game here? I'm going to pass the buck to you, Donnie, first. What happens with this? When's the match take place? What do you foresee happening? Try to lay it out the best you can. Of course, the odds of any of you guys or myself correctly predicting this are more crazy than the stars aligning for this show to even happen today. So I'm just going to pass it to you. You have the floor. Let me know your thoughts on the Rock Roman Reigns conundrum.
Well, first of all, I think we're about a year late on this. This really would have worked last year with everything they had going on with Jay and Jimmy and, Solo coming in. I think that was the time to pull the trigger on this, and not really so much this year, because everything that the Bloodline has been doing with Jay being on Raw now has been kind of a jumbled mess. A lot of stuff just kind of feels like it's being rushed now, as opposed to everything taken well thought out planning before. So, but I still want to see the match. I think everybody still wants to see the match. Nobody's going to deny The Rock and Roman Reigns or the magnitude of it. You could have it at Elimination Chamber. I think the venue is big enough, and it's a huge main event to get the rest of the tickets sold for that show if it's not sold out already. If you put that on the card, that show is going to sell out within probably 5 minutes. Whatever tickets are left are going to get bought. But then I understand from the standpoint of Mania being what it is and the magnitude of the match having to take place at Mania. I don't think that you need to have the title on the line in this match, but how do you possibly, if it's going to go to Mania, how do you possibly get the title off of Roman before that? I don't think there's a way around that, really. And another point I want to make here is I don't see The Rock beating Roman Reigns. I don't see that happening, because Who benefits from that if The Rock beats Roman? The fans? Are we going to be happy with that ending? Sure, but Roman doesn't benefit from that at all. The Rock came back years ago and ended CM Punk's long title reign and gave the title immediately to John Cena, who did nothing with it. Like no up-and-coming talent benefited from that. The biggest beneficiary to beating Roman Reigns is Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the biggest babyface in the company. We have gone through a year-long build to set the table for this, and I think everybody sees the outcome, and everybody's okay with it. This is probably the most predictable outcome in WrestleMania history, and that's fine with me. He deserves the title after everything we've gone through this past year. I don't see how it could turn out any other way than this. Now, I do see something to where you could work in a triple threat, and you could have Rock, Cody, and Roman. If you don't want Roman to take a pinfall and you want to get the belt off of him, you could have Cody pin The Rock. But, I don't know if The Rock's going to necessarily agree to something like that. I don't feel he would come back for that. I feel like he's coming back more for him and Roman to have a one-on-one program. So anything could really happen in this situation. But for me, I want to see Cody Rhodes walking out of WrestleMania with the WWE Championship, finishing the story, put a stamp on it, call it a day, and be the face of the company going forward for at least the next year or so, I would imagine.
Poignant words there, Donnie. Josh, do you have a rebuttal to that? Do you have any different opinions in regards to what he said and where Cody's story lies and all this stuff?
All right, Juice, so bear with me a little bit here. The Rock is by far the biggest crossover name WWE has ever had in popular culture and with the mainstream audience. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot have this match between The Rock and Roman at any other event beside the main event of WrestleMania. This is similar to Rock Cena. And if it's going to happen, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen in Mania. It's a matter of how and when. If I were booking things, I would have Roman Rock night 2 for the belt and for the title of the Tribal Chief. One aspect of the Bloodline storyline is to allow The Rock to put Roman over for both of their family's legacy, and I feel like there's a lot of storyline you can build up on because how Rock's grandfather is just a quote-unquote blood brother of, I believe, Roman's grandfather. They're not directly genetically related. So I feel like there's some storylines there that you could actually use. And it also has to be for the title. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to have both on the line because I feel like the Bloodline storyline was leading. I don't want to say leading up to it, but this was definitely something that they had planned out for years. I would push off Cody's finishing story until next year, since I think that will help build up Cody's underdog status heading into 41. And I think the fans will demand it and have a better satisfying ending to Cody's story next year. And we all should know that the key to every babyface's journey to the title is not necessarily them winning it and holding it. It's more about the journey. I don't think you can have the match at Elimination Chamber for a variety of reasons. Mostly because the event's going to start at 5 a.m. Do you think 5 a.m. Eastern time, I should say. Do you think The Rock's going to want to be on a pay-per-view in which the majority of the wrestling's audience in the Western Hemisphere is not going to be able to watch it because they're more likely will be asleep or just waking up in order to see it? You could go down the path of how things happen at WrestleMania 10 or 20 or 30, where you had triple threat matches or people or the title was on the line in more than one match. but I really don't think they're going to go down that path this year. I think we get Rock Roman night 2 for both the title and the Tribal Chief label, and we get Cody Roman next year at 41.
Josh, Donnie, before I go back to you for a brief rebuttal, Josh, I have a quick point. First of all, you mentioned the 5 a.m. thing, and I was just in a Twitter Spaces with a bunch of wrestling fans, and that got brought up, and that is a point that I have been I'm so over hearing. Because yes, and I think as a fan, I'm in 1,000% agreement. I would much rather have the majority of the fans that, you're catering to in North America being able to watch The Rock, if it were to happen at Elimination Chamber, be able to watch it whenever, you can live. And I get that. And everything's live. Everybody wants to talk about it live, tweet about it live. And that's how things kind of go these days. However, this gatekeeping over big moments and big matches and WrestleMania stuff, I just don't, I'm over it. North America has had and will have all 40 WrestleManias once Philly is said and done. North America is always going to get the huge shows, everything. They get the big moments. They've had it for upwards of 40 years. Can an international show for once, in this era, get a huge moment like The Rock appearing? Is there not a scenario where we could get The Rock at both shows? I have no issue as an objective fan who, one, I'll be working during Elimination Chamber anyway, so it's not going to matter. I'm going to find a way to watch it regardless. But, why can't he work both? Why can't the Roman match the Rock and Roman match take place in Elimination Chamber regardless of the time? I don't know. Enough people are going to see it. It doesn't matter to me. That's not enough of a point to not have it at Elimination Chamber. It's going to be it's not sold out right now. I think if you announce The Rock and Roman Reigns at Perth, you sell out that show. You finish out the tickets for that show, and it's a success across the board. As a fan, yeah, sure, I'm going to want to watch it, but if you're a fan, you're going to see The Rock and Roman live regardless. Or if you can't, you can watch it later on Peacock. It is not only for us. We're not the only fans in the world. I think it's and I'm not saying this to you, Josh or Donnie. It's just a very selfish take by a lot of fans to be like, well, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. to watch The Rock. Okay, but who cares? Tough. I had to watch Super Showdown a couple of years ago when it was in Australia. Was it the Brothers of Destruction match, or was it was some god-awful Australian Super Showdown that I stayed up way late to watch? And fans have been doing that for years. The UK have been watching WWE pay-per-views at wee hours in the morning for 25, 30 years. So I have less sympathy for the United States and Canada, and I live here. So be that as it may. The only other thing, and I'll ask you, Josh, real quick before I go to Donnie's rebuttal, if Cody doesn't face Roman now at this Mania, that's fine. He can wrestle him next year, 41, and that's the story. In that scenario, who does Cody face at this year's WrestleMania if it's not Roman Reigns? Josh?
So part of that answer is kind of part of the next question you're going to ask. So do you want me to leave it for your next question, or do you want me to answer that now?
You can answer it now, and then we'll dive into it in the next topic. But you can answer it now and give a little bit of reasons why.
So I'm not going to give any reasons why just yet. I'll say that for the next question. But with Seth Rollins' recent potential MCL and meniscus injury, I think you go with Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk at Mania 40. That's your pivot if it's not Roman this year?
I believe so. Yes. No one. my thing is, you don't have to put the title on anyone before that. In my opinion, the title can be vacant, and both of them can face off for the title.
Josh, we'll give the floor to Donnie here. Donnie, go ahead.
So let me get this straight, because I didn't want to interrupt you when you were having your segment, Juice, so I apologize.
You're good, man. Early. You're good. No, go ahead.
You want me and everybody else to forego 2 long-term WrestleMania stories. CM Punk's is a long-term, whether you want to believe that or not. It's been 10 years in the making.
And they're mentioning it, so it is a part of the story. Like, if they ignored it, that would be one thing. But they are literally saying he was gone for 10 years, and this is his time to make it up. So I agree, Donnie. Go ahead.
So you want me to forego those 2 stories and have these guys wrestle each other for the sake of Rock and Roman. And then, to your other point, you want me to wait another whole year for Cody. Another whole year. What does this do in that, what does he do in that year-long time period? He's already beaten Brock. He got Brock endorsing him on the fucking.
He's gonna wrestle Brock 3 more times.
Yeah, what do you want him? What more can he do in another year-long build that we haven't seen him do already? He was in War Games. He beat Brock Lesnar 3 times, I think. What else you want? Cena to come back? You wanted to beat Cena? Maybe we could, bring Stone Cold back. He could beat him too.
Hey!
Honestly,
we didn't get to the CM Punk topic yet, so we might get to Steve Austin in a little bit, Donnie. But go ahead, Josh.
Honestly, I think Cena versus Cody would be a money matchup right there. You have the old school meets a new school. It could be like Cena, like how Cena Rock was back for 28,
or Hogan Rock.
At 18, you could that's a perfect SummerSlam match right there. Cody and Cena.
Deserves to be the face of the company in that match. Period. Don't get me wrong. I want to see Cody win the title, but I can't see him overstepping The Rock. That's too much of a money matchup for WWE, especially under new ownership, under TKO, to pass up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all fine and dandy, but they should have did it a year ago. The Rock just doesn't get to show up now and go, well, I'm here now. So.
Don't get me wrong. I think 39 was the best place for them to do it. It was in Los Angeles. You had the story right there, but they messed it up. They lost the opportunity.
I agree. So, I agree with both you guys.
Now you have to pivot and call an audible.
Yeah, you maybe have to call an audible. And Donnie, I hear you, man. I get annoyed thinking that, man, one, we've had to wait a year for Cody to get to this point, and he won the Royal Rumble last year, but I don't think he was ever going to win it like the first time he gets a shot. So like I don't have a problem with him losing last year to win this year. But to your point, if The Rock's going to come in and supersede Cody, it's not that. I don't know. It's not that The Rock and Roman's not a big match, and that's where I agree with you, Josh. Like with
more or less than that, even makes Cody feel more or less than.
But Josh, hold on, Josh. Josh made a good point though with the TKO of it all. Like, this is the first WrestleMania under this new ownership with Endeavor, and just like the optics of it's Mania 40. It's a round number. Every year is always the biggest WrestleMania, but this truly will be like the biggest WrestleMania in at least 10 years. And they're going to want to put forth, especially now that they have 2 nights. If you think about it, Mania 10, Mania 20, Mania 30, all had just 1 night to prove why it was such a big show. You've got 2 nights to prove to the new owners and new, shareholders, what have you, that this is a great investment. You're going to want to have The Rock. You might want to get some other guys in there, like a Steve Austin potentially. And if Seth Rollins is unable to wrestle at WrestleMania or at a full capacity, you might have to pull some tricks. And now, if that's the case, Cody's story might have to wait till 41. And I hate to hear that. I'm with you, Donnie. I don't want to wait another year. Who's he going to face? You might have to pull a Cena match out. You might have to figure something else out. You could have Gunther win the world title that's on Raw, and Cody challenge and lose to him as he's trying to fight his way back to something. But I'm kind of in agreement. I think The Rock and Roman should happen. I think it should happen in Perth, and they should give Cody the story to be finished at Mania Night 2. And I'm also still not throwing it out there. I'm not overlooking a potential Rock versus Roman on Night 1 for the title, and Roman wins, and then Roman goes against Cody on Night 2 and loses. First of all, The Rock can help that happen. The Rock can assist Cody because Solo and the Bloodline and everybody in the history of the Bloodline has helped Roman thus far, including last year's WrestleMania. And don't you think it would even be better for Roman Reigns? And then by proxy, if Cody Rhodes beats this version of Roman Reigns to put himself over, Roman Reigns can then claim, hey, I'm the only guy to main event both nights of WrestleMania, in addition to his, I'm champion for how long, whatever. And that makes Cody beating him on Night 2 that much bigger. Go ahead, Donnie.
That is probably the best solution. That's the best solution, in my opinion. You have Rock Roman Night 1, you have Cody and Roman Night 2, or the triple threat. Those are the only two viable solutions for me. I'm just not willing to accept that we're just going to completely disregard Cody Rhodes for another whole calendar year. I can't see it happening. I don't know how you don't hurt the guy if you do that.
I think that the fact how we're all upset about Cody potentially pushing off the story for a whole another year. I think that's the reason why it'll be way more satisfying if he does. It'll be more satisfying for us at least, if he does wait a whole another year, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we are on this show and we are not booking WWE, because it seems like it is one hell of a challenge to do so. So when it comes down to it, we're just going to get cut to brass tacks here. Donnie, I'm going to ask you straight up. Just give me your answer. The Rock versus Roman Reigns, ideally under your leadership and booking powers, where does it take place? For what? Let's hear it. And what's the outcome?
I think you had the best idea. I think it should be Rock Roman Night 1 for everything, for the head of the table, for the WWE Championship. And then Roman goes over, we go into Night 2, and you have Cody beat him. Roman still looks like a superstar because he just beat arguably the second biggest star in WWE history. And Cody looks like a mega star because he just beat the guy that did that on top of the guy that's been on a 1,200, 1,300 title day reign now.
Okay, there you go. Josh, if you had the pencil and you were talking to Triple H and he goes, hey, we got to put this thing together, Rock and Roman's going to happen, where does it take place? What are the stakes? And what is the ultimate outcome?
If it was up to me, I would do, like I said, I would do Rock versus Roman this year, Night 2, and then delay Cody until 41.
Okay. Josh is on the cusp of a Bruno record being destroyed, and coming from a guy deep in Pittsburgh roots, that's tough. It's almost blasphemy to assume that maybe Bruno's record will start to look in jeopardy, but we are on the cusp of that as it is, as we head into another WrestleMania with Roman Reigns as champion. So that was the first interesting topic, and for the Triple Threat Theater round 3. In that, though, we had a couple of discussions that almost got furthered, and we kind of wanted to hold off. And that's because this second topic is poignant in a lot of those ways. CM Punk. Wow. Last time we did Triple Threat Theater, I'm almost certain that CM Punk was still in AEW. Fast forward, and Payback, the night of Payback, where I saw both of you gentlemen, and you guys actually let me know because I was in an Uber and had not seen the news yet. You had informed me personally of the tweet from AEW saying that CM Punk had been released. And lo and behold, just a mere 2 months later, something that none of us really ever thought would probably happen, although I know Josh absolutely wished it would happen. And in all of our minds, I think we all thought it could because Warrior came back, Bret Hart came back, Bruno came back. And that was CM Punk returned at Survivor Series in Chicago. And what a moment that was. I got to see it live with Josh Eisenberg, and that was one hell of a we were dumbfounded. We could not believe that actually occurred. And now, he's had 0 matches on TV, but he's had house show work with Dom Mysterio and Madison Square Garden. He honestly, and this is not, lip service. He looks healthier. He looks as if, and seems as if he honestly wants to amend things, mend fences, talk to people that might have shunned him or he's shunned in the past. It looks like he's grown up. Like, how hard has it been, for me to think he could even come back without that knowledge? All I was hoping for is, look, he's gotta build these bridges back. Triple H is a bridge builder. He does not burn them. And Punk and him clearly did not see eye to eye back when Triple H was an active competitor and what have you. But I think the mutual respect is there. I think seeing what CM Punk went through and did in AEW really showed Triple H and those in WWE that CM Punk not only still has something left, he has a passion for the business because he came back to wrestling in AEW. Don't forget that. And he has a passion and a drive, and he's definitely grown up. And I think the situation of why Punk left kind of helped him get back into WWE because under WWE, especially right now as it stands in this Triple H regime, none of that BS is going to fly. It's a very professional environment. Everybody is so team-based and oriented for the betterment of the company and the product that I think this is the best environment for CM Punk to thrive in and for the future of WWE and the future of the talent that will work with CM Punk. So, CM Punk is back in WWE. This will probably air after the Royal Rumble, so you can predict, and if it's accurate, even better. But I'm just curious, what matches would you guys like to see CM Punk have, particularly in 2024? Do you think he works the Elimination Chamber match as one of the 6 guys? If he wins the Royal Rumble and just has a match at WrestleMania, and that's that, what about after? If he's world champion, who would you like to see him defend it against? If he's not champion, who would you like to see him wrestle as a blood feud? Who costs CM Punk? Stuff like that. If it's not for the world title, what would be his WrestleMania plans? And just general idea for plans for the rest of 2024. And I will throw the caveat in there that his wife, AJ Lee, could she come back into the fold because Punk is now back in? There was speculation that she could come and appear in AEW when Punk was there, but as that fizzled away, it seems more likely now, especially with videos of AJ and CM Punk working together, training together in the ring, that AJ could make a return to the ring as potentially as soon as the Royal Rumble. So Josh, the man who had a CM Punk cardboard life-size statue in his college apartment where I first saw Chair Shot Reality, and look where we are now. What do you want to see CM Punk do in 2024? Is it automatic he's going to win a WWE title? Is he going to feud with a lot of guys? Is he just going to be chasing a lot? Will AJ Lee come back? Let's hear it from you. What do you got with CM Punk and his future in WWE? And how thrilled are you? Let's be real. How thrilled are you that he's back? Did you ever think it would happen?
I'll be honest with you. I never thought he would come back to WWE. Mostly because of how much of a feud he had with Triple H and how much power Triple H has accumulated over the past decade within that company. I know things have changed since TKO took over, and from this standpoint, I'm glad TKO did. I was in denial that he was coming out until the moment he actually did. As you can see in Wrestling Nation, I kept denying it to Matt Presto, like within seconds of him coming out. And I was sitting on my couch and I jumped up and I screamed at the top of my lungs because I was that excited for him to come out. Like I said in the last segment, the number one person I want to see him feud with is Cody Rhodes. I'll get to that in a moment. What I think is going to happen is I think he's going to win the Rumble. He'll probably come out at like 1 or 2, be in there for an hour or so, and win it. I think he wins the world title, whether it's vacant, whether it's off Seth Rollins, whether it's off Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, probably in night 1. And I think he will defend it to at least SummerSlam. If Cody does not win the WWE title, I would want him to feud with CM Punk. There's so much to that story just based upon their time in AEW. There will be so many fourth wall breaking moments in that feud that is going to get Tony Khan very, very upset, and that company very, very upset. It's a slap in the face to AEW because they are essentially at one time, at different points definitely at one time within that company, the top draw within that company. And for AEW to lose 2 of their top draws in 18 months of each other, that's a big to do in my opinion. I do think AJ Lee will come back. I think it's more a matter of when, not if. And if she does come back, I want to see her feud with Rhea Ripley. I would like to see them have a match at WrestleMania. May not be at WrestleMania 40, but definitely at 41. I think that would be a good passing of the torch moment from AJ Lee to Rhea.
I couldn't have said any of that better. I would love to see AJ Lee and Rhea Ripley at some point. It would just be so nice to see her back in the fold. It's been so long since AJ's been on WWE TV or just wrestling in general. And, you do mention the CM Punk and Cody potential match. And I thought the other night, Drew McIntyre, who, man, he has been so good on the mic recently. He's been so improved, I think, over the last couple of years on the mic. He would have to step up, if he had to wrestle with CM Punk or Cody and to be on the mic, he'd have to, he could do it in the ring, but he'd have to land with them in promos. He made a point the other night and was he just said it so well of like, look, we both were huge when we weren't in WWE. And now we're back in WWE. Like, we grew up in WWE, but then we went somewhere else, but we had to. And now we're back, and look at us now. Look at us, right? And CM Punk versus Cody would have that in spades. They would have so many different ways to, harken back to the old days in WWE when CM Punk was just starting out, when Cody first came into the company in 2007, Punk winning Money in the Bank and just there's so many different avenues they could go down in the history of them in WWE, let alone, as you said, referring to AEW, but not necessarily saying AEW. Would be great is this whole time in AEW, primarily MJF, and I think maybe Chris Jericho to an extent, and even lesser extent JR, because damn, he's been in every company, he's going to get confused, has directly referenced WWE or NXT or former names of guys that were in those companies. Wouldn't it be great if you do a CM Punk Cody Rhodes feud that the first person to mention AEW by name was CM Punk and it was in a derogatory term? Of all people to get away with it, it would be CM Punk. And, you're not going to tell him no. Oh, it's live, pal, and Tony Khan would have a meltdown on social media. So I'm here for a CM Punk Cody Rhodes feud. Unfortunately, it seems as if both these guys could be world champion sooner rather than later. Again, with the Rollins injury, we don't know. But at some point, I think their paths are going to cross. So that is something I'm looking forward to, Josh. Great points as always. Donnie, I'm going to pass it to you.
Their paths are going to cross this upcoming Monday on the Go Home edition of Raw before the Rumble.
That's true. That's true. So
exactly.
maybe Punk will, and again, I think that this recording will probably come out after that, but, who knows? Maybe CM Punk says something that is crazy. We've been waiting for a true pipe bomb since the OG one, so maybe this is the time. Donnie, I'm going to pass it to you now. Hearing from the biggest CM Punk mark in the history of CM Punk marks, now I'm going to talk to you, someone a little bit, more realistic. No offense to you, Josh. What do you want to see with CM Punk in 2024? I mean, did you really think this was going to happen with all the stuff that had happened in AEW and the 10-year gap and, burning bridges, not necessarily burning them, but having to rebuild bridges in WWE and really looking very friendly with almost all talent, even on screen? Seth Rollins and Punk had that interaction on Raw, but and I know, and Josh knows, deep down, they have respect for each other. I think they've hashed it out behind the scenes, and now they just want to make money. This is exactly what should have happened in AEW with the Elite and CM Punk, and guess what? They fumbled that, and now Kenny's hurt, CM Punk's out, and the Young Bucks are going to try to retire Sting. So CM Punk gets the betterment of it. He gets WrestleMania. He might win the Royal Rumble. What do you want to see with Punk? Is AJ Lee going to come back? Let's hear it, Donnie.
Man, what a bag fumble. Like, what an absolute bag fumble. And it isn't just Punk, it's Cody, too. Like, they're probably going to be the two biggest stars going into this next year in the company. And Tony Khan completely just fumbled both of them for the sake of guys that he still has there, which I don't understand. Like, they can't get out of their own way. The egos are just out of control. I've said it on this podcast. You can go back to the last Triple Threat Theater if you want to. And you'll hear me say that it was a good possibility he would come back because Hunter is very good at mending things with people who have been gone for a very long time. And Hunter has the mentality now. I don't think he had it necessarily when he was in the locker room as a competitor, but, being in creative and running the show now, he has the mentality of what do the fans want? How can I make money? How can I fill seats? And he knew CM Punk's capable of that. The merchandise sales speak for it alone. Those alone tell you everything you need to know about CM Punk coming back to WWE. And I think it goes back to the old saying that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I think Punk leaving and going into a toxic environment like the AEW locker room really changed his tune on some things because he thought he was going to a company where business was being handled and, you could go to an owner with issues. And in reality, the inmates are running the asylum over there and everybody's just working for themselves. Nobody's willing to do anything to try to make money or, do good business. It's clear by that with what the Young Bucks and Kenny said about him. They wanted nothing to do with him. They weren't willing to step aside and, make money for the company. And if they did that, AEW would be in a much better space than it is right now. As far as Punk and Cody, I would love to see that feud. I think that's a feud for next year's WrestleMania. I think that's the main event for next year's Mania. I don't know how much AEW stuff they're going to be able to talk about because everything that seems to come out of there is a hush job. He should probably change the name of the company to NDAEW because everything's a non-disclosure agreement over there. But
oh man, that popped me. Keep going, Donnie.
You need an NDAEW shirt now. I will wear that.
Yeah,
you should. You should wear it at the Rumble.
Well, I'm sorry, I just derailed this whole thing.
Now wear it.
You didn't derail it, man. Josh, I'll be working on that. I'll give it to you if you go to WrestleMania. Go ahead, Donnie. Keep going.
Royalties, please. So you have that going on. You could also have him come in and, if Rollins is the match to have right now. If Rollins can go and Rollins is healthy, then I think that's the match that should take place at Mania. And you have Punk beat him for the title. And then if AJ Lee does come back at the Royal Rumble, you could even do something where it's Seth Rollins and CM Punk and AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. Like you could do a mixed tag whenever Rollins comes back and he's healthy again. If it's not going to be Rollins, like I told you guys earlier, I think they should put the title on the line at the Elimination Chamber. And since McIntyre has been absolutely on fire, I think he should be the guy holding the title going into Mania. And I don't think losing to Punk really hurts him at all. Plus, there's a story to tell with both of them because he's pretty much said to everybody that he doesn't agree with the guy coming back and he doesn't like him. So you could also tell a little bit of the same story you could tell with Cody that you can with Drew. Couple other guys, I would love to see another CM Punk and John Cena match if Cena's going to come back and wrestle a few more. Cena's greatest rival to me is CM Punk, and CM Punk's greatest rival is John Cena, and I would pay good money to see that match anywhere ever again. Even if it is Cena's last match, if he wants to have it with Punk, I think that would be phenomenal. A couple other guys that kind of are flying under the radar are Roman Reigns, because of the dynamic that you could have with Paul Heyman. I think that could be a good story. LA Knight is another guy I wouldn't mind seeing exchange promos with Punk on the mic. I think he could hold his own with him, and that would be really entertaining. AJ Styles is another guy that said he doesn't really like CM Punk, and there's a story kind of there with Luke Gallows being in the Straight Edge Society and now with the club with AJ. And then maybe you could do something with Gunther if Punk, loses the title before next year's Mania and Gunther's going to be the guy to defeat him. I feel like that would be our SummerSlam main event. If you want to put the belt on Gunther, you could do it at SummerSlam with CM Punk holding it. So there's a lot of ways you can go here, but I think every way leads to money. Like, it's clear CM Punk is back where he should have been this entire time, regardless of what anybody says. It's a cliche, but CM Punk is home.
Man, I couldn't have said that any better either. You mentioned some guys that I failed to mention. CM Punk and John Cena would be just amazing. Whether that's Cena's final match or not, arguably they have one of the best pay-per-view matches of all time and one of the best Raw matches of all time from February 25th, 2013. I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember watching it live, and the pile driver that happened was incredible, and just like I could not believe that they were allowed to do that. Like, the creative freedom between both of those guys is such a high level that I think they could get away with anything on the mic, off the mic, in the ring, whatever. So give me that before Cena hangs it up ultimately. And I think, Cena's been hearkening back to, well, I don't have much time left, and put over Solo in Saudi and this and that. But I think now that you see CM Punk back, I think Cena, if he knows he's going to be done a couple years, a year, whatever it is, he's going to look at the roster and go, I want to match with him. I want to match with him, and make it happen. And I think if they can do it, CM Punk and Cena is absolutely near the top, if not the top of the list. The Roman Reigns Punk match would be great with the Paul Heyman inclusion. I think it's written. It's right there. It's so obvious. It's almost as obvious as the Rock and Roman, but you know how long they've taken to do that, so we'll see that in 2027, CM Punk and Roman Reigns. The LA Knight is interesting. LA Knight and Gunther would be interesting choices to go against Punk. It's just something different. I don't know if Punk can hang with Gunther at this point. I think Gunther might end his career. And then the AJ Styles component I would love, because their careers they're both older guys. AJ Styles wrestled in WCW, right? They both wrestled in TNA. And you made a great point with Gallows being a part of the Straight Edge Society. Can you imagine if CM Punk kind of brought it back or harkened back to it and said, hey, you used to follow me, man. I don't know why you're with AJ anymore. So there's a lot of good stuff on the table. And I'm hyped for 2024 and what could potentially happen with CM Punk in WWE. And yeah, I was critical of the I'm home, and we all know about the script of the first promo for CM Punk coming back, but I think that all had to happen that way. I think it needed to happen that way so that he could get his feet wet, get back in the game, and now he's back on track. We'll see what happens with the Rumble, of course, and everything going forward. So we shall see. But I do know one thing, is that no matter what happens with CM Punk, he will ultimately end up in the WWE Hall of Fame. And that's where we take the final piece of Triple Threat Theater, the finale, if you will, the third act, the final act, the closing act, whatever the hell you want to call it. I have given Josh and Donnie, before this recording, the task of naming 5 WWE Hall of Famers. They could be the exact same list. They could be completely different with 10 total different guys or girls, whichever. And I'm going to have them tell me why those people that are in the Hall of Fame currently should not be in the Hall of Fame. And it is my job to defend that case as to why they should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Before we get to that, let's just run down some stats. Hall of Fame began in 1993. It was established with Andre the Giant being the first inductee, the sole inductee. And as of 2023, there have been 239 total inductees. 127 of those are individual. 46 are in the legacy wing. 51 wrestlers involved with 18 separate groups have been inducted. There is a celebrity wing with 13 celebrities in it. And there have been 9 Warrior Award recipients, which is given to those who, they exhibited the unwavering strength and perseverance, and who live life with the courage and compassion that embodies the indomitable spirit of the Ultimate Warrior. So there's plenty of guys and girls, talent in general, in the WWE Hall of Fame, including 7 wrestlers that have been inducted twice: Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Bret Hart, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and then there's an 8th two-time member, Sean Waltman, who is a part of DX and the NWO. He has not been involved or inducted by himself, which is pretty wild. And there have been 62 members of the Hall of Fame that have been inducted posthumously after they had since passed away. So, the controversy with the Hall of Fame through recent years is, oh my God, this guy's in? What the hell did he ever do? Meanwhile, there's guys such as Bam Bam Bigelow, Lex Luger. There's plenty of talent that have never been in the Hall of Fame. Owen Hart, but that might not be, WWE's call on that necessarily. So, with that all being said, I'm going to ask each one of you, give me one guy or girl, give me one talent. We're going to go just over it real quick, and I'm going to try to rebut why they should be in the Hall of Fame. You tell me why they're not. So let's just start with Donnie. No particular order. Just start with, give me one talent. Give me one of the 5 talents that you don't think should be in the Hall of Fame that is in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, we're going to start this off with Hillbilly Jim. The reason why I picked Hillbilly Jim is that he's had a professional wrestling career that has spanned 20 to 25 years, depending on appearances and what you want to count. The man has never won one single championship in any company he's been in, and he had a 15-year in-ring career before he retired due to injury. Not one championship. The most memorable thing, in my opinion, about Hillbilly Jim is him managing the Godwins, who really aren't anybody. I can't even believe I'm talking about them because that's how short-lived that was and that's how successful they were. But that's what I remember him for. Other than that, I cannot figure out how or why this man managed to make it into the Hall of Fame.
Wow. And, when I presented this to you guys, I kind of assume, going over the list of people that are in the Hall of Fame, of who you guys are going to choose. I got to be honest, I am shocked that you picked Hillbilly Jim, particularly because, you did mention, and this is a part of all of it, look at my bio, everything is a work. Pro wrestling is a work. So this is, it's such a bizarre Hall of Fame, it's a board of people that decide, oh, you were worthy of this honor, whether that's, it almost doesn't matter what championships you won, whatever. It's kind of down to, were you over? Did you make money with the company? And I'm shocked that you said Hillbilly Jim. Yeah, he didn't win anything. The only accomplishment, in his Wikipedia, outside of being in the Hall of Fame, is that he was ranked number 298 out of the overall best 500 in PWI 500 years in 2003. So that was over the course of his career. He was ranked 298 out of the, 500. And he retired in 1990. But outside of that, where I can agree with you, I'm going to disagree, and I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Every appearance that he filled in, I always thought was worth it. He was, first of all, his Hall of Fame speech was incredibly long, but outside of that, I loved his appearance at Mania 3, with the little wrestlers and King Kong Bundy. And I loved his appearance in the Gimmick Battle Royal as well. I think he's just one of the more over characters, fun characters that WWE has had. And I remember him being a part of the Legends House and a little bit on Primetime Wrestling. I just think as a legacy ambassador for the company, they could have done a lot worse than Hillbilly Jim. And I think he did a damn good job in the role that he was given, especially, again, with no real titles or any sort of in-ring stuff to base it off of. So I'm going to disagree on that. I'm going to disagree in a lot of these. I'm trying to rebut the whole damn thing. But I think Hillbilly Jim, out of all the guys that you could have picked, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. So interesting choice. Josh, how about you? Are you going to shock me here? Or are you going to pick someone that I assume should never have been in the Hall of Fame? Let's hear it. Good pick, by the way, Donnie. Josh, you're on.
I have some further down the list you might be a little shocked at, but I'm going to start you off with an easy one.
Okay.
Koko B. Ware. I know he's not as bad as Hillbilly Jim. He won a lot of titles in his pre-WWE days, but he never won any championships in his 8-year run with the company, and he essentially became an enhancement talent during his run.
Yeah, you make good points there, and I'm really finding it interesting that you guys are specifically saying this guy didn't win anything in WWE, because that, to me, doesn't matter. I think that even though it is the WWE Hall of Fame, I think a lot of this is just like the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, but I don't think they can call it that, and why would they? This is World Wrestling Entertainment. But again, I'm not going to say the inductees that are in that, there is one specific Hall of Famer that I think this is this topic is made for, and I am taking the argument I would for them, especially if you guys don't bring up the name. I'm going to bring the rebuttal for this guy too, for Koko. So over. He is so over. You want to talk about, and I didn't get to bring this up with Donnie. Do you know what else Hillbilly Jim had going for him? He was an LJN wrestling action figure. If you're immortalized in the LJN line, unless you're Ted Arcidi, who's not in the Hall of Fame, you probably were over. You probably were worth something to WWE. Koko B. Ware had a Hasbro action figure. He was over. I think he also had an LJN, if I'm not mistaken. But I loved his second little run as a part of High Energy with Owen Hart, although, I more or less remember that run with him being squashed by Yokozuna on the first Raw. But I think Koko B. Ware was one of the more over guys in WWE for his time, and one of the more memorable talent that even if you're not a wrestling fan, you know who Koko is. He had the bird on his shoulder. So kind of a bizarre choice again, but this is exactly why I wanted to do this. I love hearing what you guys just weren't into, or I'm going to be thinking that some of these guys are just before your time, or that you just didn't care for. And if you look back and you said, wow, these guys sucked, of course you're not going to think they're in the Hall of Fame. So I'm here for it as a pro wrestling lover and historian. So, man, good, another good pick, Josh. I'm interested for your next four. Donnie, let's hear your second choice. I know Hillbilly Jim was an interesting one, but let's see what you got with a follow-up here.
Second on my list was actually Koko B. Ware. So I'll just gloss over this for a second, and then I'll move on to the next guy. But Josh is correct.
I love that, by the way. I love that you guys had the same one. Did you guys talk about this beforehand or no?
No.
I love that.
No, we did not.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
That Koko never won a championship in WWE. Koko actually never won a major championship in a semi-major promotion up until he goes to the USWA after WWE, and he won the championship there 2 times. The problem that I have with Koko B. Ware being in the Hall of Fame is I understand that characters are going to get into the Hall of Fame. I'm totally okay with that. The Godfather's in the Hall of Fame, and I don't really agree with him being in there off the character thing, but he's more deserving, in my opinion, than Koko B. Ware. The thing with Coco that bothers me is when your animal is more over than you are, that is an issue. Jake came out with a snake, and not once did anybody ever think that that snake was more important than Jake Roberts. I loved High Energy when I was a kid. That was one of my favorite tag teams up until it got cut short because Owen got hurt. But to me, that's like his biggest career achievement was being in that tag team and getting squashed by Yokozuna. And then that was pretty much it. You never saw Coco again.
Wow. Yeah, you made a good point there. Coco, yeah, you say that about Frankie, yet Damien, and then later on, what the hell was the name of the later one of Jake Roberts? What was the snake in 96? Revelations, was that it? It was just another biblical name, I believe. But
I think it was Revelations because he was doing like the Bible thumping gimmick at the time.
Right. Yeah, you make a good point there. I can't disagree that I wouldn't say that Frankie's more over than Coco, but I will agree with you in saying, yeah, Coco definitely got helped by being the Birdman and legitimately having a bird. I mean, it made him more over as a babyface. I mean, the kids loved him. And again, I don't think you necessarily have action figures and stuff made if you're not an over character back in the day. So, and I am definitely here to rebut and to prove why people should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'll definitely agree on points if I feel valid if they shouldn't be. Donnie, who's your third guy if we want to skip over Coco there?
The third guy is the not so great Khali. And I'm going to buck from my point about people winning championships because he's actually won a World Heavyweight Championship. But that's not my issue with the great Khali being in the Hall of Fame. I understand you can call him an attraction.
Well, hold on. Can I cut you off real quick? Was it because the great Khali, even though he was champion, held the title upside down?
That is part of the reason. That's your money shot right there, and you even botched that. You botched the money shot with the picture with the title.
But go ahead.
My issue with the great Khali is, I'm sure everybody knows what the issues are with him. He was horrible, absolutely atrocious in the ring, okay? God awful. You can go back right now and watch every single WWE match the great Khali ever had on Peacock. Not a single one of them have rewatch value. Not once have I ever gone back and said, man, I need to see this great Khali match again. Especially not these garbage Punjabi prison matches that they put out. Talk about some of the worst gimmick matches of all time. But then, on top of that, he was so horrible that I don't even understand how he made it to WWE because he managed to kill somebody in the ring before he ever got there. And then, after he gets this consolation World Heavyweight title run because he's 7'1", he immediately just becomes a 7'1" jobber. How are you 7'1" and you can't beat anybody? But yet you're in the Hall of Fame. I'll never understand it. They should have just put the Punjabi Playboy dance in the Hall of Fame instead of him. That was more over than if he ever was.
Well, this is an interesting one because I can't disagree with what you said. The title botch, him becoming a jobber and then becoming a comedy act. But I do know why he was in, and I stand by why he should be in. He is the first ever Indian-born world champion. I think WWE, first and foremost, look, they changed Federation to Entertainment, but you know what they never changed? And in fact are even more important in 2024? World. They are here for everybody in the world. And the more countries that get included, the more countries that have talent. Look, they're going to Perth in February. And you don't think Rhea Ripley and Grayson Waller are going to want to do everything in their power to make sure that show is the best damn show they can have so that they can come back there again for PLEs? I think pride and just representation of a culture or of a country or a continent or whatever is important to those wrestlers that are from there and for WWE to celebrate. And, it's the airport test. If you're walking through the airport and you go, here's a Vince McMahon impression. Oh my God, what a specimen. That is what they want.
That was money. That was money. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's what they want. They want people that are going to turn heads. They don't care if he's good in the ring. There's someone that's not in the Hall of Fame that's just as tall as Khali. And, he had high profile matches with Undertaker. I'm talking about Elegante, Giant Gonzalez, of course. But he paved the way for a guy like Great Khali, and it's just, they don't come along that often. You got the Big Show, you got Khali. Omos is probably going to be in the Hall of Fame as long as he sticks with WWE. And I have no issue with him being, Great Khali, having the comedy act after a while, because you can only do main event, title run stuff as a 7-footer for only so long before the believability's done and whatever. But I liked his little run. I love when he squished Rey Mysterio's head like a grape. The world title thing was whatever. In a world of gimmick matches, I think you could have done a lot worse in the Punjabi prison. It just sucked that the first one didn't even have Khali in it because he was injured. And it was it Batista and Undertaker, or Batista and Big Show? Oh my God. So a lot of things were just didn't line up, unfortunately, for Great Khali in the end. But as an ambassador for WWE, I think it's just great. I think he's a great person for that. And, like it or not, he's in the Hall of Fame. So good choice, though. That is someone, it's a more recent choice. And luckily I got to watch all that stuff unfold live. So I really have a more, deeper opinion on that than a guy like a Coco or Hillbilly Jim, who, it really was done in ring by the time I really can remember as a fan. So, great choice again. So that's 3 for you, Donnie. Josh, let's hear your, second choice.
I will say I took this more as these are the 5 least deserving people, or least deserving entities, rather than I don't think they should be in, because I'm a huge Hall of Fame mark. I love Hall of Fame. I love discussions. I can't wait for the Baseball Hall of Fame announcement next week. I can't wait for the Pro Football Hall of Fame announcement before the Super Bowl. So this is like my time of years for Hall of Fame announcements. My second one is going to be the Bushwhackers. Pretty similar resume to Koko B. Ware, but just as a tag team. Had a lot of success before they came into WWE, but they won no championships in another 8-year run with the company, and they were purely a comedic gimmick when they were here. I respect what they did, but they're definitely on the lower tier of when it comes to Hall of Fame inductees.
Well, you absolutely nailed the team that I, was referring to earlier as you wonder why they were in. And this was a team that whenever they were announced they were going in, I was like, what the hell are they doing? And then you realize, they've been around for forever, 36 years. And whether you like them, you don't like them, you think they suck, they were just a comedy act, they were so damn over. They both had 2 separate sets of Hasbros, and all they did was update the gear. They had black and gray camouflage camo, and then they came out with a updated desert camo of their Hasbro figures later on, which are great, by the way. But they were so over that they deserved such figures. And I love talking about the Bushwhackers because they have the unique distinction of having both, and of course, this is all subjective, but that's why we're doing this pod. Dave Meltzer rates matches for the Wrestling Observer newsletter out of 5 stars, whether it's 1 star, -5 stars, 5. The Bushwhackers have a unique distinction of having not only a 5-star match, Crockett Cup 1986 versus Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers as the Sheepherders, and a -5-star match in the god-awful, I can't believe it even happened, but if you've never seen the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view, you need to go out of your way and see it. 1999, it's probably on Daily Motion or something. -5-star match between the Bushwhackers and versus the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. So they have an interesting career, to say the least. I know Bushwhacker Butch passed away last year, unfortunately, right around WrestleMania, which is really unfortunate. But you know, and as like annoying and lame, you can go back and say the Bushwhackers were. I thought they were really over. I really enjoyed their shtick. They just had a lot of fun. And man, one of my favorite things that they did was these times in the new gen era of WWE in Survivor Series 93, it was Doink and Bam Bam Bigelow having a feud. And how do you do a Doink 4-on-4 match whenever Doink can't be there because Matt Bourne was not a part of the company anymore? What do you do instead of that? You get Men on a Mission, which is Mabel and Mo, and you get the Bushwhackers, and you put them in face paint, and you have Vince McMahon in all his glory. Luke Doink! Butch Doink! Oh my! And just like the most ridiculous, he thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. But I don't know. I love them with Jameson back in the day, and just, they're licking people's heads. They were just disgusting, but they were over. And I will, you know, back when they first got inducted, I was like, this is ridiculous. But since then, there have been more ridiculous entries in the Hall of Fame. So I'll stick with the Bushwhackers as a solid team to make it in. But I'm glad you picked them. That was a team I anticipated being a part of this list. So I'm glad they did not get ignored. Donnie, we've gone through 3. Let's hear your 4th.
The most shocking part about that selection was actually being told that Meltzer was able to give somebody 5 stars outside of the Tokyo Dome for someone that hasn't signed an NDA. But my 4th choice.
Great point, Donnie.
My 4th choice is going to be Queen Sharmell. And the reason why I picked Queen Sharmell is because, like, I understand characters get in, like we've talked about already. She was a Nitro girl at the start of her career before WWE purchased WCW. Then we kind of go into this thing where, you know, they bring her as an on-air character, and we know she's Booker T's wife in real life. And then they do, like, that weird storyline with Kurt Angle that made everybody really uncomfortable. And that's that's probably, like, the most memorable moment she ever had on WWE television.
Unfortunately, yes.
Goes into becoming Queen Sharmell, and she manages King Booker. And that's the only superstar I can ever recall her managing. I don't think she actually managed anybody else. And then she only had 3 matches. 3 matches her entire career in WWE. They were all handicap matches with Booker T. Wrestling a man, by the way. None of these matches had women involved other than her. Then, the biggest reason why she is on this list for me is because she goes to TNA.
Yes. Here we go.
She has the worst wrestling match I've ever seen in my entire life. And if you do not believe me, I'm sure they have it on YouTube or somewhere else where you can look it up and you can find it. Or please God, I hope they don't actually, so nobody's eyes ever have to see it again. She has a match with Survivors, Jenna Morasca. And you never see Jenna Morasca again after this because this is such an atrocity of professional wrestling. She could never be heard from in a professional wrestling ring. Worst match I've ever seen. I don't understand what she did to get into the Hall of Fame aside from Mary Booker T.
Woo! Well, had you not mentioned the aforementioned Victory Road 2009 match, which has been deemed one of the worst pay-per-views in the history of pro wrestling, in addition to Heroes of Wrestling, like I said, December to Dismember. Because, yeah, in her WWE career, and I know her and TNA has probably, nothing to do with, like, they're not going to acknowledge that in WWE. And I did say that your career can be outside of it and, like, Sting, and eventually get in, regardless. Because they do consider that it's more of a pro wrestling in general Hall of Fame, whether they want to admit that or not. But yeah, she had the weird Kurt Angle thing, and I loved Queen Sharmell and King Booker, so I can't take that away from her. But it just wasn't too long of a run. Her stuff with the Boogeyman was fun. I thought Boogeyman was an interesting character back then, just because he didn't do much other than just scare people and shoot worms, and it was just a bizarre thing. But I like that they kind of went all in with it. But yeah, and then you mentioned it, Jenna Maraska versus Sharmell, which sucks because the people that were with them in their corners, Sojo Bolt and Awesome Kong, probably could have had a great match, but instead they decided Sharmell and Jenna Maraska, Victory Road 2009. If you don't have the TNA Victory Road 2009 DVD, I'll let you borrow it, but I won't let you return it to me. And if you don't have TNA Plus or whatever they're calling it, I'm sure Matt Presto has it. You could check out that match there and then revoke your TNA Plus subscription after seeing it. So I can't necessarily disagree. I think that might be one of the first ones I'm going to agree with here with you on. So wow, Sharmell, maybe not the first person to put in the Hall of Fame. And that's the other thing. This is more or less, did they have to go in now? Couldn't Sid Vicious gone in before Sharmell? Sharmell can go in. That's fine. They have these guys have
plenty of people ahead of the line here. Plenty of people.
It's about the accolades and stuff, but they, other people who aren't in, arguably, again, it's all subjective and it's all WWE, up to them to do it, but could have been in before you put someone maybe not as deserving or lesser of a career in. Donnie, we've gone through 4 of yours. Josh, you did Coco and Donnie had Coco, so we're going to have you do 2 back to back. So give me your third entry here, Josh, of who shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame that is.
So my third was going to be the Great Khali as well, so I will skip over him.
Wow. Okay. Well, wait. Can you give me just a little why he doesn't deserve it?
Because I feel like he was only over in India. He had a monster heel run at the beginning of his career, but quickly became this comedic gimmick towards the end of his time with the company. And like Donnie said, he did not have one enjoyable match during his whole run with the company. Those Punjabi prison matches were trash. It was a too complicated process. It looked bad on TV.
I will interrupt just for a moment because yes, he didn't have any matches that I would wager were worth anything. However, 2 things come to mind that I can recall is the Kane WrestleMania 23 slam of Khali, like that whole let's try to replicate Hogan and Andre. It's not that they were replicating it, but it was in Detroit. It was 20 years after the third one, so I kind of like that. Can I say though, he got hit with an attitude adjustment off of a crane. John Cena hit him with that. And that's pretty insane for anybody to be taking, let alone a 7-foot+ guy who you land wrong, you ain't wrestling anymore. So I'll give him that though. I'll give him a couple of those crazy spots. But yeah, I agree with you outside of that. Let's hear your 4th guy.
My 4th guy, this is going back into the vault a little bit. I've never seen him personally wrestle, but just based upon what I've seen and studied online, I'm going to have to go with Johnny Rodz. He was a lifelong enhancement talent with WWE. One of his only most memorable matches were probably with Bob Backlund at MSG. He did become a trainer, though, and I think that was the reason why he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. But I don't think nobody within the past 20 or 30 years is going to put Johnny Rodz up there with the top trainers like Stu Hart, Killer Kowalski, or Vern Gagne. I think he was just a very mediocre inductee during a time in the mid-90s where they needed to put guys into the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Wow. This is out of left field. I can't necessarily disagree with his in-ring stuff, but I will I will disagree with you saying, he might not be one of the better trainers outside of training Vince Russo. Tommy Dreamer, big, 3 of the Dudleys. Hugh Morris, who ended up becoming a trainer himself. Now, regardless of what the controversies with him, Bill DeMott, in training and what have you, he went on to train how many other countless wrestlers, and I don't think that happens if he's not a wrestler himself. So Johnny Rodz is huge there. Additionally, Taz, Big Bill, Prince Nana, a lot of interesting talent that went and got trained by Johnny Rodz throughout the years. And he got inducted in 1996. So to me, they knew that he was a solid. This is, the Khali, Sharmell, they were way after the fact. Even Bushwhackers were in 2015 to where, I don't know. I don't know if these guys is it a reach or not? I will say this though. The Hall of Fame was created in 93 and it went to 96 and then we didn't see it until 04. So it is interesting that in the 96 class, the last class before they re-upped and did it in 04, that's where you had Johnny Rodz as maybe that, well, he trained a lot of guys, so let's put him in. Because in that class, we had Vincent J. McMahon, Pat Patterson, Killer Kowalski, Captain Lou Albano, Baron Mikhail Skuluna, which I'm not really sure who that is, to be quite honest with you. And then Jimmy Snuka. So that class was
that was a deep class. That was definitely a deep class.
It was for the training. It was definitely not for the in-ring.
100%. It was for the training, but he was definitely the weakest link of that class, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. So you've given 4 because Donnie said Khali and you had Coco, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Donnie, your 5th and final Hall of Famer that should not be in the Hall of Fame. Let's hear who it is, and I can't wait to rebut it. Let's hear it. Who you got? Who sucked?
Okay, so my 5th selection isn't actually somebody that I don't think deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. I think that she has done everything to deserve getting in there, but what she has done afterward, in my opinion, warrants her being removed from the WWE Hall of Fame. And if you see where I'm going,
I know who this is. This is you might be onto something here.
If you see where I'm going and you know what I'm talking about, then you know the choices. Tammy Sitch, also known as Sunny, the original diva, the first lady of professional wrestling, other than Miss Elizabeth. The thing about Sunny is everything that she did in her career, we know about the issues she had in ECW and the drug-related problems with Chris Candido. Like, that's all well documented and understood. But when she went to WWE, she actually became really successful. She was the first really prominent female on television during the launch into the Attitude Era. Like, my first crush as a child was Sunny. She was. The woman looked amazing. And she was a focal point on TV every week because they knew her looks sold. But she could also cut a mean promo, man. The woman was phenomenal on the microphone. She had charisma for days. She didn't have much of an in-ring career, but she didn't need to. She was a successful manager. She enhanced almost every talent that she managed while she was a manager in WWE. Unfortunately, we're going to go to a very dark place right now because after her wrestling career winds down, since 2012, this woman has been arrested. I couldn't get an exact number, so I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it's between 16 to 18 times since 2012. Of those 16 to 18 arrests, 7 of them DUIs. At some point, you have to realize you have a problem and you have to take responsibility for your actions. But this woman chooses not to. On the final DUI that she's charged with, she's also charged with manslaughter because she kills a 75-year-old man. She also gets on Twitter at some point in between all of these DUIs and says having a DUI does not make you a bad person. And I agree with that to a point. Having a DUI does not make you a bad person. What makes you a bad person is not realizing the mistake on the first DUI and continuing to commit the same offense over and over and over again without regard for anybody's life other than your own and only thinking about yourself. And ultimately, it cost somebody else their life who was just strolling along about their day as an innocent bystander. So if people like China, can't get in because of the choices they made outside of professional wrestling, and people like Chris Benoit can't get in because of his situation. And before you come at me and press your fat fingers on your keyboard, I'm not saying he deserves to be in there. The point I'm trying to make is what he did is preventing him from getting in there. So I don't know why she should be treated any differently.
Whew! Wow, we took a turn, but this definitely was a potential topic that we, I gave it to you guys. So if we were going to avoid it, it would have been avoided, but it was not, and we're here. So we'll take this on head on. Look, your points are very well taken. And that's the other thing is that she got inducted in 2011, and it really seemed like after that is when all this really, really started to go downhill. And Jim Cornette, whether you like him or you don't, I always refer to him as one of the smartest minds in the history of professional wrestling, but unfortunately his mind in the world is still in 1986. He described Tammy Sytch as a meteoric rise and a meteoric fall. And I could not agree with him more. America on, if you're our of age in the 30s, you're in your 30s. I always tell people I'm thankful, seeing how the world is now with the internet being everything, every day. Everything's the internet, right? I pride myself, as if I had a choice, that I got to live in a time where the internet was not really a thing, and then it was infancy of the internet, and it started to become a thing, and then it really became a thing, and now it's the only thing. And in 96, when infancy would be a generous term for the internet, Sunny was the most downloaded celebrity for America Online, AOL. Unless you're from that time and you're as old as all three of us are, you really won't be able to understand how big that is. Celebrity, not most downloaded wrestler, not most downloaded woman wrestler, celebrity. And she was just a WWE manager. She was a diva before divas were a thing. Trish Stratus is not a thing without Sunny. Any of them. You name the diva, even the Chynas, the Sables, the Tori Wilsons, none of that really happens without someone like Sunny paving the way. And man, you really nailed it with God. I mean, she went to ECW and she was doing a lot with Chris Candido, of course, the Triple Threat. She did stuff with LOD 2000. She kind of turned into something. The Smoking Guns, the Body Donnas, of course. Farouk for a time. I mean, she really helped WWE at a time where they were not doing so hot. They needed the eyes on their programming, and like I said, AOL said that she was the most downloaded woman on their site, passing celebrities such as Mariah Carey, still in the news today, Pam Anderson, Jennifer Aniston at the peak of the Friends and Baywatch. Like, how many other celebrities could do that? And it was Sunny in the World Wrestling Federation. That being said, what you also said at the end there is true, and it's unavoidable. I mean, you can't deny it. And you would think that after one DUI, maybe you'd realize, hey, I made a mistake. I should try to correct that mistake. I should never think about doing that again and move forward, And it's not that was never her idea, but it wasn't her idea 6 times in a row. And the fact that, and this is another thing for a whole other topic for a whole other show, but the fact that she kept getting let off after 3, 4, 5, 6 DUIs and then she still has a ability to get a license, although it seems like it probably was a suspended license anyway. Like, it didn't matter. Like, she was going to get behind the wheel regardless. And I really don't want to turn this into just a bashing people thing, but this is what we're talking about. And yeah, you said Benoit, and that's a touchy subject as well. And it's not me to say, oh, well, he killed people and she killed someone and it's the same, but it's different because Benoit was never in the Hall of Fame. This happened as a current wrestler on the roster, and they made a conscious decision. He ain't coming in. He's never going in. Right? And that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they ever want to do it, that's on them, right? Sonny was in 2011, and then everything went up in flames. Everything was just like bad, worse, even way worse. And just like, when you go into the Hall of Fame and you have all these accolades and then you're eventually featured in Dark Side of the Ring and you're still alive, you have some problems. So I'm not going to be the guy to say that that she should have her Hall of Fame status revoked, because that is a real slippery slope. If you do it once, you're going to have to start doing it for other people, and a lot of people are going to complain. So to me, I think she'll probably stay in there forever, and WWE probably just hopes that she'll go to jail and it'll just kind of go away and she won't have any more incidents. And I feel awful for the family of the 75-year-old man that lost his life because of this. Should have been taken care of a long time ago, but this is a wrestling podcast, so I really don't want to dive too much into it, but this is how we got here. But, man, yeah, out of all the people that Cornette said it, meteoric rise and meteoric fall. So unfortunate to see where all that turned out. With such an incredible talent, in a time where WWE was not doing great. She was a beacon. She literally was the sun for a dark time, in WWE. So, hell of a name, Donnie. Glad we got to talk about that. It's unfortunate that we had to really dive deep, but that's what we do here on the Juice Box. So
we had some sunny days, Hitman.
Oh my God, I know. That's the other thing. I'd love to just be able to talk about her inclusion in the wrestling realm, but it went a little further than that. So, Josh, your fifth and final. I don't think it could get any more controversial than Tammy Lynn Sitch, but let's see what you got. Unless you already picked her and that was it, and then the whole segment's over. So, what do you got?
No, so I did not pick her. So this one is kind of, I don't know how you want me to say it, but it should be a topic of discussion recently, especially within and without the wrestling community. The person that I'm picking, I just want to just say
no way.
It's been a travesty about what has happened in the past with him.
No way.
My pick is going to be Chris Von Erich. Chris Von Erich was probably the least successful of the Von Erich family. He only wrestled for a little over a year before he unfortunately passed away, and he was smaller and less athletic than the rest of his brothers. I feel like Fritz sort of forced him to get into the wrestling when that probably wasn't the right path for him, especially at his stature and his health was at risk. And I feel like his brothers passing away had a great effect on him mentally as well. And it's just unfortunate to see someone basically be pushed to their death by their own father. That doesn't take away from the rest of what the Von Erichs accomplished in wrestling. I think Fritz, Dave, Kevin, Kerry, and the rest of them deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. However, I think Chris just got in just based upon the fact that he stepped foot in the ring and his last name was Von Erich. But I'm still bad for what happened with that family all these years later.
Well, I got to be honest. I thought you were going to go another route, but that's fine because I don't know how you're going to be able to defend.
I was trying to you in the wrong direction on purpose there, just to get you wound up. But I'm glad
I was getting juiced up. Yeah, I thought we were going to go down a really crazy path there, but
we can go down that crazy path if you want.
No, because
I know know who we're talking about, and you're going to light this fucking show on fire if you do that.
Yeah, we're not doing that. So let's just talk about this, because this is the points you made about Chris Von Erich are very valid. And to be fair, I'm going to advocate for him being in because he was left out of something else really recently. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but I got to see the Iron Claw.
I have not seen the Iron Claw yet, but I know he was not included in that movie. Okay. Spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it.
Exactly.
So, even though I spoiled the whole film 2 minutes ago. So
I mean, it's fine. There you go. Everybody pretty much, if you're a wrestling fan, you know about the Von Erichs and supposed curse and everything that's happened with their family. Of course, dramatized not really dramatized. The damn thing was pretty accurate. In regards to what ended up happening to a lot of the family in the Von Erichs. But, yeah, the Iron Claw, A24, great production, Zac Efron, just a lot of great talent, in the movie. But it's about the Von Erichs, and unfortunately, Chris Von Erich, was left out. I don't know why. It's not as if he didn't have tragedy. Unfortunately, he, also committed suicide.
So I read somewhere that including him would just been too tragic for the whole film. That's what the director apparently said.
Well,
don't quote me on that.
Well, you're quoted. I would wager it's just like it was already almost, it was a little over 2 hours, and I'm not sure if they could have, it's just tough. You mentioned that it's not that it wasn't that because he was small was why he wasn't featured or whatever, but he just wasn't in the ring as a lot. He just didn't have a longer career, than the others, and it's really not his fault. But I mean, when you have, Mike committing suicide, Kerry eventually committed suicide in 93. So this was in between those two in 91. It's just really tough. He was the smallest of the bunch. He was 5'5". He had asthma, and apparently, reading this, that he began to experience depression and had his own drug problems once his brother Mike committed suicide in 1987. And due to the lack of his physical stature, also kind of hurt his wrestling career, and that hurt him mentally, additionally. So. I don't know. I just disagree. I think that the Hall of Fame, is supposed to celebrate families literally like the Von Erichs, where you can't have one Von Erich make it, Kerry was clearly, and above all the rest, the best and did the most, for the family, I would wager. That's a subjective opinion. There's others that could disagree with me, I'm sure, and I'd love to have that discussion. But he did the most, right? And he was in WWE and Texas Tornado, and he won the Intercontinental title and had a great career. Yet I just could not, in good conscience, put just Kerry in the Hall of Fame. I think every brother and the father deserve to be in the Hall of Fame for not only what they contributed to the business, but what they sacrificed for the business, including their lives, their bodies, being around the business literally since birth. And if you do end up seeing the movie, Josh, you'll get a sense of that, of just how pressure, how high pressure situation, pro wrestling was to Fritz and the family, and how important it was to all of them. So to me, he needed to be in there if they were all going to go. If one was going to go in, they had to all go in. And I just think they all deserve that in regards, to just how important they were overall to the business, because even though they had the tragedies and such, they all had good moments. They all had little moments in there. They all were important for some reason or another. And even though Chris really didn't do as much as maybe some of his other brothers did, I think he was a little, undervalued there, and it's just not his fault. And like I said, he was not brought up in the Iron Claw movie. So for him to literally be ignored in a movie about his family, when he was a part of the tragedy as well, I think that's a damn shame. And I get why, but I just think that, that's very unfortunate. And I think that he should have been a part of it in at least some way. So, I disagree. Long story long, but, I get where you're coming from. He didn't do as much as the others, and, whether that's his fault or not, it just didn't prove to be a Hall of Fame worthy career. So I get that, but all in all, I think the Von Erichs all deserve it. So, wow. You guys have any last thoughts on the Hall of Fame? Before we go, I'll just ask you guys, name me one talent that's not in the Hall of Fame that you would love to see in the Hall of Fame in 2024. Because regardless of when this comes out, I can guarantee you it comes out before WrestleMania and the Hall of Fame inductees are even announced. So, Donnie, give me one person you'd like to see go into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, whether they're posthumous or alive still. And if you even have a person to induct them, that'd be great too.
I want to just correct one thing I said before I pick my person. I know that Chyna is in the Hall of Fame, but I feel like it's a consolation Hall of Fame induction. She deserves her own solo induction, in my opinion. But I'm going to pop you right here.
Well, right, but I think Chyna could be a solo inductee this year, if not soon. I think you're right. I think they just wanted to get her in. And look, Sean Waltman's in with two groups. He's not even in by himself. I think he could be the first 3-timer. But we'll see. But go ahead.
Poppy right here. I think it should be Bam Bam Bigelow, the most underrated big man in professional wrestling history, in my opinion. One of the most athletic big men in professional wrestling history. Dude main evented a WrestleMania with a football player and carried him through the whole match. I mean, come on, what more do you want? Every Bam Bam Bigelow match I've ever watched has been entertaining, regardless of who he was in the ring with. The guy just had freak athleticism for his size. And he has the accomplishments to back it up. The character work was there. He lived the gimmick. I mean, the guy had flame tattoos on his head. So I think it should be Bam Bam Bigelow. As far as an inductee goes, I think it should probably be the franchise Shane Douglas. I think that would be an appropriate inductor for him. You could do Lawrence Taylor if you wanted to have a celebrity induction, I guess. But I think the more appropriate route would be the franchise Shane Douglas.
Wow. First of all, great choice, and I don't disagree with either. That'd be incredible to see Shane Douglas do that for Bam Bam. I don't know if he would want to be I think he just hates WWE, so I don't know if he would ever do that. But for Bam Bam, maybe he would. Lawrence Taylor would be, first of all, perfect, and I think it'd be a great choice because of the history. I say it quite often because I think it's one of the more interesting careers in the history of wrestling. But Bam Bam Bigelow main evented the first Survivor Series. He wrestled at Starrcade '88. He was in New Japan. He wrestled in Herb Abrams' UWF. He main evented Mania 11. He was in the finals of the first King of the Ring. He won the ECW title. He kind of was half responsible for Goldberg losing the streak by interfering in that match. And he wrestled at the final WCW pay-per-view. He's like the Forrest Gump of big men in pro wrestling. He's been in a lot of these random, huge moments and has performed very well. And at a time where wrestling was not great, 95, across the board, even though WCW turned a profit, hello Hulk Hogan and Vader, he main evented WrestleMania. Bam Bam Bigelow main evented WrestleMania. You know who hasn't main evented WrestleMania? CM Punk. Go ahead, Josh. Let me hear one person who you think should be in the 2024 WWE Hall of Fame and who would induct them.
So I think with this new era, this person is probably at the perfect opportune time to get inducted. Without this person, we would probably not be here right now talking wrestling. He revolutionized this business 40 years ago. And for all his faults, which he does have, he's very bashful. He was very bashful about going in when he was still with the company. And that man is Vincent Kenny McMahon. And the person who I think should induct him has been a WWE loyalist for the past 30 plus years and is probably the greatest character Vince has ever created during his time. It should be The Undertaker who inducts him.
Wow. I can't disagree necessarily, although I could also see Steve Austin maybe inducting Vince. But Undertaker, now that he's doing the One Dead Man show, kind of just talks now. So that's his thing. So I could see him doing an incredible induction speech for Vince. And yeah, Vince doesn't want to be a part of the limelight. And if there's going to be a Mania that he goes in, I guess it would be this one. However, with it being in Philadelphia, I think that spot might be reserved for one Paul Heyman. So that's who I would wager should be inducted. God, you could have Roman, RVD, Tommy. You could have CM Punk, anybody, Lesnar. You could have anybody induct Paul Heyman, especially with it being in Philadelphia. So I like your Vince McMahon though. Would that be the greatest speech of all time? You know, I don't know. What could he say? Could he name drop AEW because he's on the way out? Would he have a mustache? There's a lot of things unanswered that I'd like to see happen if Vince got inducted into the Hall of Fame, especially like how they gonna announce it? Oh, well, it's Vince. It's like the guy who literally ran the company forever.
Honestly, if he does get inducted, well, when he gets inducted, because I know he's going to go in someday. It might not be this year, it might not be next year, but he'll go in eventually. As long as he's alive for the induction, I feel like it's going to be his roast of everybody, where he just goes up on stage and just rips into everyone that hates him or everyone that he still hates, essentially. It'll be a no holds barred. He doesn't hold back. He lets it all go after almost 40, 50 years in the business.
Yeah, wouldn't that be incredible to see? He's got plenty of people to roast if that were to be the case. But maybe he would roast some of the guys and girls that we suggested here in the juice box. Wow, I cannot believe after months and months and months, especially since the first incarnation of this show happened in, I believe, March, and then again in June, and I was like, we could do this every quarter like the Clash of the Champions. And then when you realize that 3 adults in their 30s have jobs, have lives, even though we're wrestling fans, it may or may not be the number one piece of our lives to get to this pod, but I'm glad that we actually got to do this third version. I can tell you that we will be doing more in the future. As long as wrestling is happening, there will be Triple Threat Theater because there's always topics to be discussed. And I love having you guys on, Josh, Donnie, having a 3-person team doing 3 topics every now and again really is nice to do. So I'm really looking forward to publishing this and having it out there for the world to hear. So we had great topics today. The Rock and Roman Reigns. We'll see probably by the next time we talk for Triple Threat Theater. I would wager probably after WrestleMania. And we can probably get into what happened and how it all unfolded. So that'll be fun. That might be some sort of way to get another topic started by kind of backtracking to this one to see what happens. Similar with the CM Punk one, although I doubt we'll just add on to it. We'll be like, oh, well, this is what happened with CM Punk. But I'm sure we'll come up with another topic. And the Hall of Fame topic, man, I was enthralled by some of the choices. We dove really deep, some really, really dark places, to hear why some may or may not be in the Hall of Fame and for what reasons, for that. But I love talking to you guys about wrestling. I love talking about wrestling in general. That's exactly what the Juice Box is for. It's for pro wrestling fans by a pro wrestling fan. And could not be more happy, more proud to have you guys as friends and to be able to discuss this in this forum. So before we wrap things up, Donnie, any last words before we head out of here?
Oh, yeah, brother. I just want to help you out with one thing because I see what's been going on Twitter, even though I don't tweet a lot, or X as it's called now. I guess it's X now because Elon Musk had to change things. I'm still going to say Twitter because that's always what it's going to be to me. But you AEW loyalists, man, I don't understand it. I mean, I get it. I get being loyal to a company to a point, but you people like remind me of the people around here that think Kenny Pickett's a good NFL quarterback just because he played for the Pitt Panthers and then got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is okay to acknowledge something is bad if what you are seeing is bad. And right now, AEW TV is pretty damn bad. We're approaching WCW late 2000s territory with how bad the television has been. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not is fine by me. But what I'm saying to you isn't that I hate AEW. It isn't that I want to see AEW fail. The entire reason I'm saying this is because I want to see AEW succeed. They have the best professional wrestling roster probably that's ever been assembled, and they can't figure it out. I think somebody else needs to take over in creative, or maybe they need to do something different with the whole process, but something has to change because they're capable of doing so much more. They are the number 2 professional wrestling company right now, and I don't want that to change. I want them to continue to get better, but the way they're going, it doesn't seem to be the case. And then we're at a point right now where professional wrestling is healthier than it's been since the late 90s. TNA just came back, and their first pay-per-view was incredible. I loved it. I love the ending. Nick Nemeth, shout out to you. I called it, by the way, just so everybody knows. But we're in a great place with wrestling right now. WWE's can't miss television. Just be more realistic, man. You don't have to come at our throats every time we criticize something. It's justified criticism. You can't tell me that it isn't. But other than that, I got nothing. I'm glad to be back on the Juice Box. I'm glad to be here with you guys. Sorry to everybody who enjoys listening to us that it took so long, and hopefully next time it won't take as long to pump out the 4th episode. So until then, if you have anything to say to me about anything that I've said, my Twitter handle is @Donatello412. Feel free to come get the smoke.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Donnie. This is one hell of a time to be a pro wrestling fan, and I'm glad to be talking about pro wrestling with 2 great fans such as you guys. Josh, a couple closing comments before you head out of the Juice Box this week for Triple Threat Theater?
I just want to say, why can't we just love wrestling just for being wrestling instead of having these allegiances to one 3-letter company or the other 3-letter company? It's all the same. Okay.
NDAEW.
It's essentially trying to achieve the same goal, to entertain us and to make us go home happy. It doesn't matter if one company puts on more of a work rate product and the other company puts on more storyline driven product. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. You can call out both companies for doing something that you don't like and still be a fan of the product. They're not at war with each other. This isn't World War II where you have pledge allegiance on one side or another. This is the best. We're just fans. The more wrestling that's out there that's good, the better. The more competition there is, keyword competition, not warfare between each other, is the optimal state for a fan to be in.
I don't want to cut you off right now, but I just want to say this just to make a point on what you're saying, and then I'll let you finish. You and I said WWE 2 years ago was what? It was unwatchable television, correct?
WWE 2 years ago was completely unwatchable television before Triple H took over. Yes, I will admit to that. And guess what we're saying right now? The AEW is almost totally unwatchable.
Thank you. I just wanted to get that in there just to make sure.
And we will admit when a company is good, and we will admit when a company is bad. It's not because we're hating on a company and wanting the other company to succeed. We want pro wrestling overall, no matter if you're WWE, AEW, TNA, New Japan, AAA, All Japan, Noah, whatever it is, we want you to do good. But we will call you out when you're not doing good because we want to see you succeed. That's the only thing I have to say. And if you still want to pledge allegiance to one company, I don't want to name any names on Twitter because I see a lot of loyalist for both company and it annoys me very much. Just let it go. Watch wrestling. Enjoy it. Be a fan. It's not the end all be all in life. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Appreciate it while I'm still here.
Very, very poignant comments from Josh Cross and Donnie there. You mentioned World War II. It may not be World War II. I wish it was World War III because I missed that pay-per-view concept. Maybe AEW will do that with the vast amount of talent they have procured over the last 5 years, but I doubt it. Wow. So this has been Triple Threat Theater Volume 3. And don't know when it'll be posted, but like I said, probably before Elimination Chamber, if I were to guess, because we got the predictions for Royal Rumble as of this moment taking place next week. So some programming will be in and out before and after this show, but it will be airing before WrestleMania. I can guarantee that. So really appreciate both you, Donnie, and you, Josh, for appearing once again. Shout out to Wrestling Nation in general. For keeping the spirit alive every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, pay-per-view, PLE days, news days, whatever, with the unlimited wrestling content. So without, saying too much more, long story longer, this has been The Juice Box. This has been Triple Threat Theater. This has been Josh, Donnie, yours truly, Juice Springsteen, at Juicy Steen on Twitter, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, and as always, The Juice Box you can find on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and if you do listen to it on Apple, go to iTunes, takes a minute, drop a 5-star review, and please write a review if you really like the show. So, appreciate everybody listening. This has been Triple Threat Theater. Shout out Donnie, shout out Josh. Thank you for being on. Love the banter. Love pro wrestling. And it's fantastic because when pro wrestling's great, it's really damn great. So this has been one hell of an episode, and I'll see you guys next week for The Juice Box.
That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.